We all know the story of Pompeii, a Roman city home to around 12,000 people, frozen in time. A world erased in a single day. But what if the accepted narrative of its final hours is a profound misinterpretation? The mainstream story points to sudden, inescapable destruction, a compelling, tragic legend, a simple timeline. But buried beneath centuries of accepted history is an unbelievable piece of evidence that completely fractures this picture. The vast majority of Pompeii's population, over 75%, successfully fled. We're not just tracing an eruption. We're questioning the foundation of a global myth. This is the story of the 2,000 who stayed behind. So, why did they remain? When the sky turned dark and the earth began to shake, what made them choose to face the fury of the volcano? The historical evidence demands a stricter, darker investigation. The answer isn't simple. It lies in a series of fatal miscalculations. A timeline anomaly in human judgment that sealed their doom hour by hour. This is an investigation into the last, desperate hours of Pompeii, where a sequence of seemingly logical decisions led to an unbelievable tragedy. To understand this divergence, we must first journey into their world. For the people of Pompeii, Vesuvius was not a threat. The historical record is clear. They possessed no word for volcano. Earthquakes were a common part of life in the region, so frequent that the writer Pliny the Younger noted they were not particularly alarming. This ingrained sense of normalcy, this failure to recognize the warning signs, was the first critical error. For generations, they believed Vesuvius was a protector, not a destroyer. The eruption began around midday. It was not the fiery explosion we imagine. Instead, a colossal bang and a strange cloud began to ascend from the mountain. By 1 p.m., it was a towering column, which Pliny the Younger compared to a Mediterranean pine tree. For Pompeii's residents, the initial reaction was likely not terror, but a spectacle of awe. But that curiosity soon gave way to concern as a strange, light rain began to fall. Not water, but small, pebble-sized stones of pumice. The prevailing winds, tragically, were blowing directly over the city. Still, for many, this didn't signal a need for immediate flight. It was a bizarre, frightening storm. And in a storm, you seek shelter. As the afternoon wore on, the light rain of pumice became a relentless bombardment, and this is where the first great, fatal decision was made by thousands. The choice to stay and shelter indoors. From our modern perspective, it seems like madness. But it was a logical choice, rooted in 3 critical errors of judgment. First, the desire to protect property. The archaeological record speaks loudly and clearly. We find individuals with their most precious belongings, like a woman found with a collection of gold and silver coins. They believed they could wait out the storm. Second, the instinct to keep families together in the growing chaos. Waiting for a loved one to return home seems safer than venturing into the dark. We see evidence of this in the House of the Golden Bracelet, where the remains of several individuals were found. DNA evidence has since shown they were unrelated men, perhaps sheltering together in what they thought was a safe haven. Third, and most critical, a profound underestimation of the danger. They saw falling rocks, not a collapsing volcanic column. The open street seemed far more dangerous than the solid walls of their homes. So, they waited. They barred their doors, hoping for the cataclysm to pass. They had no idea that for the thousands who fled in these first few hours, escape was still possible. For the 2,000 who remained, the window of opportunity was rapidly closing. As evening fell, any semblance of a normal day was obliterated. The sun vanished. Pliny wrote of a darkness deeper than in the thickest night. The only light came from the terrifying flames that blazed from Vesuvius. For those still sheltering, this was a new kind of terror. The pumice was now accumulating at a terrifying rate. The weight became immense. One by one, the roofs began to give way. The very shelters people had trusted became their tombs. Archaeologists find many victims inside their homes, crushed under collapsed ceilings. Imagine the horror, huddled in darkness, listening to the constant roar as the building groans in them. With a final crash, everything ends. They weren't killed by lava or fire. They were killed by the sheer weight of the mountain falling upon them. Escape at this point was almost impossible. The streets were buried under meters of pumice. The darkness was absolute. The air was a choking fog of ash and toxic gases. The sea offered no escape. For the people left in Pompeii, there was no way out. They were trapped in a dark, suffocating, and collapsing city. Well, after midnight, a new and even more terrifying phenomenon began. Pyroclastic surges, superheated avalanches of ash and gas. The first of these obliterated the nearby town of Hercules. For a time, Pompeii was spared.
The map shows Pompeii just outside the red zone.
Then, as dawn approached, something incredible happened. There was a lull. The violent shaking subsided. The rain of ash lessened. After a long night of unimaginable terror, a sliver of hope appeared. This brief calm was the eruption's most cruel deception. Survivors emerged into a city buried under nearly 3 meters of pumice. But the sky was brighter. They likely thought the worst was over. This was their last chance. We have found their bodies grouped together high up on the layers of pumice.
This distinct layer of volcanic ash clearly marks the initial phase of the eruption. We can see the corresponding pottery shards embedded right here.
A testament to this final, failed escape attempt. They are the Garden of the Fugitives. 13 individuals caught in the open as they tried to run. They had survived the night, only to make one last fatal miscalculation. They had no idea that time had just run out. Just minutes later, Vesuvius unleashed its final, most lethal weapon. A fourth pyroclastic surge collapsed from the main column. This was not falling pumice. This was a dense, turbulent cloud of incandescent ash and poisonous gases racing down the mountainside at hundreds of kilometers per hour. It hit Pompeii in an instant. A recent study suggests this devastating cloud engulfed the city. For perhaps 15 agonizing minutes, the temperature inside was not survivable, reaching well over 200 degrees Celsius even at this distance from the vent. An unbelievable distortion of the truth. We now know the cause was extreme thermal shock. The intense heat caused instantaneous death, searing lungs, and stopping hearts. It could even trigger cadaveric spasm, instantly freezing muscles. This is why the plaster casts made from the voids their bodies left are so hauntingly lifelike. They capture the final, split-second action of a life interrupted. A frozen echo of the city's last breath. The shocking truth has been revealed. They didn't escape because they couldn't comprehend the threat. No one in the ancient world could have conceived of a pyroclastic surge. They made logical decisions based on their experience, but they were facing a force that defied all understanding. It's time to rewrite the books on Pompeii's final hours. In the end, the story of the 2,000 who died in Pompeii is a tapestry of human choices. The choice to protect a home, the choice to wait for a loved one, the choice to trust stone walls against a force they couldn't comprehend. Each of the plaster casts is a monument to one of these choices. They are not just artifacts, they are the final, poignant testaments of individuals caught in a profound and unbelievable historical interplay. Today, Mount Vesuvius is still an active volcano, and millions live in its shadow. The true history requires us to listen not to the loudest voice, but to the deepest record. The lessons from Pompeii about recognizing warning signs and the absolute necessity of early evacuation are more relevant now than ever. That record reveals a timeline anomaly of human decision that is simply unbelievable. A timeless and chilling warning, written in ash.
Hit subscribe for more deep dives into the forgotten realities of history, tech, and luxury.